Today, our undefeated Kansas Jayhawks look to continue Big 12 play as we start on the road against Oklahoma State, and then we return home facing off against the reigning conference champions, the UCF Knights. These are two teams who we've never beaten before in this series. We've played against them once each, both back in Season 2. Both ended up being heartbreaking losses, so we're looking to get over those today, and we'll see if we can continue our perfect campaign. Before we get started, though, I would like to point out that this will be the last episode of the series until MLB The Show comes out on Friday. And similarly to what I mentioned in the Warriors episode the other day, is that uploads for the other series are going to be a little less consistent over the next few weeks as I get a lot of MLB The Show content up, specifically with the new franchise series. And the team reveal will be tomorrow night, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Anyway, the team is coming off 2 solid wins in the last episode, our first in-conference games of the year. We really didn't play all that well in either of these matchups, but a win is a win. It's hard to get too upset. But we needed overtime to defeat Utah, and to our credit, we scored in the opening overtime, and we got 2 sacks defensively to stop them at the end of the game. Clyde Poole had a phenomenal performance throwing the ball, but he was very ineffective as a runner, which is rare for him. He just kind of looked like he lost a little bit of juice out there. Now, we did have some guys perform really well. Amani Law had a great game. He had over 100 yards in the first half. Rajon Jones played well. And then obviously 2 sacks at the end of the game in overtime to propel us to the win. As for the Arizona State matchup, we won by 3. I don't think the game was as close as the score really suggests. We were in control for most of the matchup, but they got some things going late and nearly recovered an onside kick. Thank God for Ty Lord scooping it up. Clyde was quieter through the air, but he had a career high in rushing yards with over 200. Much different than the last game running the ball. So some of my concerns with his issues as a runner this year, or at least issues for his standards, certainly went away after this game, but still certainly not a complete performance against an Arizona State team that's really not that good. We should have won that game by a lot more than 3. So now we've got Oklahoma State and UCF, who by record, neither team has played all that well this year, but Oklahoma State's always a tough out, especially in Stillwater. And then UCF won the conference last year. I don't want to take those guys lightly. Late in the Arizona State game, our starting center, Terrell Butts, tore his pec. He will be out for the rest of the year, a huge loss, as his development has really pleasantly surprised me. He was recruited out of high school as a bust, but he's already an 86 as a true sophomore. Now, his production, I think, has been worse than last season. He's allowed the same amount of sacks. He's been penalized quite a bit, but he's still an up-and-coming young player. So we're going to make actually a few changes on the offensive line. Kenyon Denbo and Kion Sample made their first career starts last week at right tackle and right guard, and I think we're going to stick with that. Luis Roche will be the center. We might get Benji Trahan some looks. He was recruited out of high school as a center. And then I'm also going to make a switch at left tackle. Nicholas Perkins has been pretty meh. He hasn't been bad, but I wouldn't say he's been great either. I want to give Reggie Chanel an opportunity as a starter. I haven't been all that impressed by Chanel in his limited opportunities of playing time, but maybe as a starter he'll be better. Carter Leversky at left guard is the only week 1 starter on the offensive line who is still a starter. Let's take a look at Oklahoma State now. It has not been a great season for them as they currently sit at a record of 1-3. I think the roster is more talented, though, than the record suggests. And they do have a pretty solid quarterback in Zane Flores, who was the starter when these two teams played against each other a couple years ago. The numbers, though, do not reflect him being an 88 overall. He's only completed 52% of his passes and really just has not played to his rating at all during his time as a starter. At running back, Rodney Fields Jr., I thought played well when these two teams played against each other a couple years ago. Trey Griffiths and Jalen Pope lead the way at wide receiver. And defensively, they've got some solid players too, including junior linebacker Jamerson Moore, a player who we had recruited back in Season 1, and he's turned into a pretty solid starter for them, a lot better than I would have expected when we recruited him. I always kind of thought of him as a depth piece, but he's become a lot more than that. He's been one of the few bright spots for an Oklahoma State team who has not beaten an FBS opponent yet this year. They lost to Arizona State earlier in the season. They got blasted by Tulsa, losing 45-10. Granted, Tulsa's ranked. They are pretty good. They're coming off a 1-point loss against Baylor, but they did have a bye week last week which does bode well for them. This Kansas team has not started games off well. In the past, we were at our best in the first quarter. This year, it's been the opposite. So we'll see if Oklahoma State can try to get off to a fast start, given the off week they had last week. As on 2nd and 12, they go play action. Flores wants it all deep down the field. Wide open. Trey Griffiths in for a touchdown. And Oklahoma State on the board quickly. The thing with this Kansas defense last year is that they allowed so many big plays. Early this season, it seemed like they really addressed that weakness. But so far in Big 12 play, Utah, Arizona State, now already Oklahoma State, have been able to get the vertical passing game going. Number 21, Teron Jean-Pierre. Number 27, Taylor Davis. Both of those guys should have been able to get there quick enough. Griffiths had so much separation. Here's our first look at the Jayhawk offense. It's a 3rd and 9. Poole rolls out to the right. On the run, under pressure. It's broken up. Looking for Amani Law. Good coverage there by the Pokes. And a great opening 5 minutes for Oklahoma State with a quick touchdown and a quick stop. Cowboys back with it. Play action. Flores down the field. He's got Griffiths again. Breaks a tackle and is decked. But not before getting past the 35. He has cooked Teron Jean-Pierre, the freshman corner so far. 3rd and 9. Delayed handoff. And Dekias Brinkley sees it coming from a mile away. Only a gain of around 1. And Oklahoma State's going to kick. It's a long one here. A 52-yarder for the junior. Jimmy Aguilera looking to add to the lead. This kick is up, and it is no good. It definitely had the distance, but it was wide to the right, and Oklahoma State will only remain up 7-0. So that's a huge break there for Kansas. It's still a one-score game. You get good starting field position. 2nd and 5, play action. Poole on the run. He goes short. Nicholas Scotland-Williamson, the freshman, breaking tackles, brings it past the 50 for a first down. We'll see if Kansas can keep things going there as Poole will drop back again. Finds space up the middle, looks to run with it, and he has plenty of room. Breaking tackles all the way to around the 20. A huge run for Clyde Poole, who had 5 runs last week of at least 20 yards. That one goes for 25. Poole on first down with a strike for Rajon Jones. The sophomore continuing to make strides this season as Kansas gets him in the red zone. Ty Lord to the outside, outruns the defender, and he is gone. A touchdown for Ty Lord, a player who Oklahoma State recruited pretty heavily out of high school. Obviously, we were able to land him instead, and, well, I'm sure Oklahoma State would love to have a guy like him on their offense. This game is now tied at 7. A great get back from Kansas. They get a stop, they get a score, and we're tied late here in the first. Oklahoma State back with it. Flores under pressure on the blitz. He is eventually brought down by Samuel Mpemba. Seth Jennings originally collapsed the pocket, and Mpemba, who had a great game 2 years ago here in Stillwater, brings him down. On 2nd down, the screen is caught by Griffiths. Tackle him, for Christ's sakes. That should have been a loss of yardage. But now we're looking at a 3rd and very manageable. That's what this team does. The opposing offense loses a lot on first down. They make up all the yardage on 2nd down to make it a 3rd and manageable. Flores downfield, broken up. Griffiths was open. It was not a great coverage rep by Jean-Pierre, but the pass was underthrown, and TJP is able to make a play on it. Tied at 7-1. We really struggled through the first 5 minutes of the game. We looked a lot better, though, over the last 5, and hopefully we can keep it going with possession of the football past the 50, as it is a 3rd down and 5 for Kansas. Poole looks to throw it under pressure, finds the hole, gets the first down, and Clyde Poole, fighting for extra yardage, brings it past the 25. 6 carries, 53 yards, picking up where he left off as a runner from last week. 3rd and 7, Poole going to scramble with it again. Look at all that room. The gaps between the center and the guards were so large. Poole's able to fit through them easily. 1st and goal now. Poole up the middle. It's caught for a score. Ty Lord with a rushing and receiving touchdown, but this one is not going to count. A holding call on the redshirt sophomore center, Luis Roche, hailing from Miami, Florida, making his first career start. Poole going short here on 3rd and goal. It's Rajon Jones who gets it to the 1. You know what we're going to do when we're this close. 4th and goal. Offense stays on the field. They are going to go for it. Looks like a goal line package here for the Jayhawks. Poole calls for a switch at the line as it's a handoff for the big fella. Jazir Tolbert bounces off a blocker, and he is in. Big Jaw with the score, and Kansas takes their first lead of the game as it's 14-7. Oklahoma State had the big touchdown early, a couple big plays on their next drive, but the Kansas defense has looked a lot better since the opening portion of this matchup. We'll see if they can get another stop. First down here for Oklahoma State, nearing the 30 at around the 28-yard line. Flores looks to throw it, under pressure, dances around, he will go short. This is Jalen Pope with a big play and a big hit by Taylor Davis, but not before bringing it past the 50. 2nd and 10 now. Flores rolls out under pressure, sends it for Griffith down the field, brought down at the 1. Teron Jean-Pierre has really struggled today, and I get that Trey Griffiths is one of the better receivers in the conference, but this has been ugly. On 3rd and goal, it's the redshirt freshman tight end, Jaquez Selvey, in for a score. Flores with his second of the first half, and this game is tied at 14. Even Oklahoma State, who has not beaten an FBS team yet this year, is giving Kansas a run for their money, and the Jayhawks' struggles in conference play continues. Cornell Teamer to the outside loses 3. He's gotten nothing today. DeMarco Paul brings him down. 2nd and 13. That one is hauled in by Rajon Jones, breaking tackles, and the sophomore gets the first down. An impressive start in this one so far for Rajon Jones. As for Clyde Poole, that is his 500th career completion, as Kansas now has it past the 50. 2nd and 5 after the 2-minute warning. Up the middle, Amani Law with the spin move. That's his first catch of the game, looking to get him more involved. We know how dangerous he is with the football in his hands. On 1st down, Poole looking deep, and that one is caught near the 1. Cornell Teamer comes down with it. If you can't get him going as a runner, feed him the ball through the air. Kansas is in no hurry. They drain the clock within 20 as the pass is incomplete into traffic. Poole was comfortable throwing it there because he saw the contact. He knew he had a free play, as it is a pass interference against Taiwan Ray Jr., and that will give Kansas the ball inside the 1. 1st and goal. That's Teamer. He's in for a score, and our 3 top running backs have all scored here in the first half. Cornell Teamer will put Kansas back ahead 21-14, and that will bring us into the half. Much like the last 2 games, we're playing well enough to hold the lead, but I still feel like there's something left to be desired. Defensively, we started poorly, we ended poorly, we were good towards the middle, but I don't think we're sending enough pressure, and Trey Griffiths has been very good up to this point. Teron Jean-Pierre has not been able to cover him. On the offensive side of the ball, the run game has not been overly efficient, but we have gotten some plays when we've needed to. Obviously, the 3 total touchdowns. Poole through the air has been impressive, 11 of 14, 128. Zane Flores, meanwhile, 13 of 19, 2 touchdowns. Trey Griffiths with 128 yards. As Teamer breaks a tackle and he gets around 12. He only had 13 rushing yards in the first half, so that just about doubles it. 3rd and 1. Jazir Tolbert with space. He gets the first down. Kansas running it early and often here in the second half, trying to establish something on the ground. On 3rd down, Poole rolls. He finds space to the left, and he's out of bounds, scrambling for a first down. 10 carries, 86 yards today for Clyde Poole. We've converted a couple 3rd downs on this drive. Here it's a 2nd and 10. Teamer tries to outrun the defensive end, and he does not. A big loss of 4. Not a good rep there by Kenyon Denbo. It's Gregory Fultz, the All-American junior. On 3rd and 14, Poole thought about it, looks to run, and he does not get by the linebacker, but he does center the kick, which should make it easy for Anthony Escalante. A 40-yarder for the junior, who has not missed yet this season, and his kick is good. Escalante remains perfect, and it is 24-14. Kansas now up by 10. Oklahoma State's got to respond. 2nd and 4. It's a delayed handoff, and the Jayhawks smell it from a while away. Caesar Stoner, yes, that is his name, loses yardage. Mo Nwokeji, amongst others, bring him down. Oklahoma State only ran the ball twice in the first half, excluding the lone sack. As on 3rd down, incompletion on the screen, Dekias Brinkley leads to pressure. They will punt it. Kansas gets it back. On the run, here is Rasheem Diggs. The true freshman wideout brings it past the 50 for a gain of around 13. 3rd and 9, play action for Lord. No one's open, so Poole says, F it. I'm going to look deep for the end zone. It's caught! But they say he wasn't in bounds. In real time, I thought it was a touchdown. So I figure, why not throw the challenge flag? What's the worst that can happen? I thought he got a foot in bounds, and it looked to me like he had possession of the ball. So let's take another look at it, and from these angles, 1 foot, 2 foot. And all you need in college is to drag the 1 foot. So I think it's a matter of if he had possession of the ball, and as you can see here, the play stands. Am I missing something? That looked like a touchdown. Amani Law got 2 feet in bounds. You only need 1, and it looked to me like he always had possession of the football. I never really saw him cough it up as he went to the ground. There's 1 foot. Yeah, that's in bounds all right. Drags to 2nd foot, not that it matters. And look at the ball. Maybe there was a little bobble at the end, but I don't think it really had anything to do with the ground. I think that's a catch. I think that's a bad call. 2nd and 10, big loss there for Rodney Fields Jr. It's Afia Kiaho who brings him down, the sophomore defensive tackle. We're looking to get him a few more snaps here and there. 3rd and 13, Flores looks to run with it, and he will not get the first down. He does not want to mess with Damani Maxon, and I don't blame him. Oklahoma State punts it, Kansas gets it back. 3rd and 7, late in the 3rd. Poole looking deep, nice comeback. Rajon Jones fools the defensive back. He did not see that move coming, and Kansas now is moving it closer to the red zone. Ty Lorden at quarterback. He pitches it for Cornell Teamer, and he only gets a yard. Oklahoma State with the stop. We do have a flag. It is a holding call against the offense. They will call it on Kion Sample. Oklahoma State, interestingly, will decline the penalty, and we've got a decision to make going into the 4th. Pretty good quarter, all things considered. We only scored 3, but I think the offenses look solid. The defense was terrific in the 3rd quarter as we try to up our ranking from number 4 in the nation. And on 4th down and maybe a yard or 2, we're going to go for it. Poole calls for an audible here at the line of scrimmage. What does he have up his sleeve? Going to look to throw it. Wide open, Rajon Jones in for a touchdown. Oklahoma State sent everybody. That play was originally supposed to be a run, but Poole saw the box was stacked, switched it into a pass with the idea that somebody like Amani Law was going to be open short. However, nobody was on Rajon Jones in man coverage. There was no safety back deep in zone, so that is the easiest touchdown throw that Clyde Poole may ever make, but a very savvy audible by the junior quarterback. Oklahoma State now down by 17. They've got to get something going. This is Jaron Law with the first down, the second cousin of Amani Law. Cool storyline there. Now it is a 2nd and 1. Here is Caesar Stoner. He gets the first down to around the 40. That might win the name of the year. Does not get better than that. Oklahoma State moving it nicely. First time past the 50 here in the second half. Stoner gets it back. Plenty of space up the middle. They really haven't tried to run the ball at all today, but now they are, and now it's kind of working. Inside the 30, here is Flores under pressure, and he is sacked. Dakias Brinkley brings him down, and Brinkley breaks a record. The most sacks in the history of the Big 12 Conference. Brinkley obviously broke the school record last season, but now he holds the conference record with 35 career sacks. That's pretty dope. 3rd down and 2 now for Oklahoma State. Flores looks to throw it, goes short, it is caught, and that will bring them inside the 15. Jalen Pope with the reception. Now a 3rd and 5, Rodney Fields Jr., and what is he doing? Okay, Flores looks to throw it under pressure, and he is sacked. Couple of defenders in the backfield. I see Ben Bieria. I also see Afa G, the 5-star true freshman with the first half sack of his career. 4th and 10, they're going to go for it. Flores looking for the end zone. It is broken up, nearly intercepted by Quantavius Landers. So Kansas gets the stop. They will get it back on offense. Looking to chew some clock. 3rd and 3, Nicholas Scotland-Williamson to the outside. Gets the first down. Stiff arms the defender to the ground. And Kansas is going to keep the drive moving with around 5 minutes to go, looking to chew some clock. 2nd and 10. It's a screen. Hauled in by Amani Law. Has space. Follows his blockers. Gets the first down. Looks like he did go out of bounds, but not before converting to keep the drive going. 3rd and 10 now for Kansas at the 45. Poole rolls out to the right. Looks to scramble with it. And he will not get the first down, as it's only a gain of around 8. So Kansas is going to punt it. I thought about going for it, but we're up by 17. Let's trust the defense to get a stop. 2nd and 4. Flores looks to throw it up the middle. It's picked off. Damani Maxson with the interception, and Kansas gets the football back. Maxson, for what it's worth, is towards the top of the NCAA in terms of active interception leaders. The senior on his career, now with 8. 3rd and 7. Poole tries to escape the pocket, but he cannot. Couple of defenders, including Jamerson Moore, the former Kansas recruiting target, with the sack. Oklahoma State gets it back following the 2-minute warning. Flores looks to throw it under pressure. That one is caught. First down to around the 40-yard line. It's now or never. Oklahoma State hoping for a miracle, trying to move as fast as they can. Now a 2nd and 10. Looking to throw it to Zane Flores, and he's picked again. Teron Jean-Pierre snags it out of the air, his first career pick, and that should be the dagger. Not a great game for Jean-Pierre, but a good way to finish as Kansas takes this one 31-14, 6-0, now clinching a bowl game officially for a 4th straight season. Much like the last 2 games, certainly was not a perfect performance, but I do think this was our best game of the Big 12 slate up to this point. We allowed 0 points in the second half, and what I've noticed is, with the exception of the Arizona State game, our defense has been exceptional in the second half. We did not have our starters allow anything against JMU because the starters didn't play. But Duke didn't score anything in the second half. Michigan didn't score anything in the second half. Utah was quiet in the second half. I think they only had 10. Oklahoma State had nothing. The offense was pretty solid as well. We dominated time of possession. We had the ball for nearly 28 minutes and had clear control of the clock, running the ball 50 total times. Clyde Poole with an efficient game through the air, 16 of 22 with a score. Ty Lord even threw a pass. I think it was that jet sweep where he was in Wildcat. They're counting it as a pass. On the ground, Poole a yard shy of 100. Teamer was not the most efficient, but he had some solid plays. Ty Lord had some solid plays. Not a lot of explosive runs, though. If I look at last year's run game compared to this year's, this season is a little more consistent, but it doesn't have the explosiveness that last year did. 5 for 68 in the score for Rajon Jones. Our new look offensive line I thought was terrific. 9 pancakes for Roche, 8 for Sample, 8 for Chanel, 4 for Denbo. None of them allowed any sacks, and we had less penalties this week than normal. Defensively, slow start, played very well as the game went along though, including the 2 interceptions late by Maxson and Jean-Pierre. I don't really want to blame Flores for the turnovers. They were both at the end of the game. He was just forcing stuff, trying to throw something on the wall, hoping it would stick. Overall, he had a solid game, but obviously in the second half was not particularly impactful. Trey Griffiths was great, but again, he was quiet in the second half. He only had 1 catch. Jean-Pierre did a much better job with him. We threw our freshman into the fire, and even after a bad first half, we kept him in there. And I think that decision proved to pay off. So a solid win here. We are now 6-0. Before we simulate the week, though, let's talk about recruiting. And I think we're going to have at least a couple of commitments here at some point today, our first of this recruiting cycle. So a few guys have narrowed their list down to 3. Running back Drew Page and defensive tackle David Ibarra, who both visited a couple of weeks ago against Utah. We're in second place for Page. Missouri has taken the lead. And Ibarra, we're in first, but it's close. A couple of guys are down to 5. We're in first for all of them, including the 5-star wide receiver Elijah Parrish, which of course is a big one. In my opinion, the best player we have on our recruiting board. Jamison Michaels, running back, is down to 8. We are in second. So right now there's 3 guys who are down to 3 schools. Lane Oregon, I think we're good. I think we're going to get him. We have a clear lead. The other guys, it's not so cut and dry. David Ibarra is going to be very close. We're in first place, but Oklahoma's made a lot of ground. I think that could be very 50-50. And then with Drew Page, Missouri has passed us, and Oklahoma is firmly in the thick of things as well. Page visits Missouri in week 7. I think he's going to have his commitment done by then. I'm going to keep my points on him. I know it's kind of not looking good now that Missouri's going all in, but we've made it this far, so I figure we might as well stick it out, and we might as well hope we get lucky. We do have a couple guys visited to schedule this next week with defensive end Kevin Hodges and cornerback Rashard Oakham. But we do have 2 other slots available, and we do have a handful of guys who would be available for the visit. Now, there are some interesting scenarios here, I think particularly with wide receiver Tevin Goins and defensive tackle Frederick Dembo. These are the 2 guys who need it the most. But Goins is going to visit Missouri in week 7, which is horrible timing for us. I don't know why I only put 25 points into him last week. I know we had the lead. It was still really close, though, and now Missouri's putting a lot of points into him, which kind of sucks, especially because he's visiting the 1 week we would be available for him. I think he's going to have his commitment done by week 9, so I think we're just going to take him off the board. It's not looking good for him, which sucks because he's a good player. As for Frederick Denbo, he's visiting Houston this week, so we can have him come in next week. My concern is Houston might build up too much of a lead on him to where it's really hard for us to get him. So I'm not sure if it's worth using the 40 points and giving him the visit because it's unlikely we get him. After thinking about it, I've decided that I will give him the visit. I would like to think we can overpower Houston here at the end. They're not some great program. Hopefully they lose the visit. They're playing against Arizona State, so 2 not so great teams there. We certainly could use a Sun Devil win. And then obviously it would be very beneficial if we won as well. For the other spot, I thought about Hakeem Ficken because he's considering UCF. So if we beat them, maybe it gives us an extra boost. I thought about Trey West as well, but I'm going to go with Elijah Parrish. He's my number 1 target on the board, period. So I figured, let's get him in as soon as possible. Let's build a lead with him going into 3, and let's make sure neither Wisconsin or Iowa schedule a visit for week 7. I want to be the ones in control of that battle. We do have an extra spot on the board with Tevin Goins being removed. So I'm going to take these points off of Javier Maloney and investment into offensive tackle Cortez Hicks. He's a 3-star from Oregon. Looks pretty solid. I like the athletic traits at 6'7", 314, so we're going to offer him a scholarship. Otherwise, it's now about how we're going to use these points. I don't think we need to put 50 into Oregon. I think he's pretty much a lock, but we're going to keep our points into these other guys at the top, including Drew Page. Again, I know it's not looking good for Page, but I figure we might as well try. As for the guys who are down to 5 schools, we're going to start to really put a lot of points into them, such as Elijah Parrish. Hakeem Ficken is going to get 40. Defensively, Kevin Hodges, I think, is already getting a lot, but we're going to pour a ton into him. This is definitely the most competitive part of the season in terms of recruiting because this is the point of the year where there's a lot of intense battles going on, and we have to be very strategic with how we pick and choose where our points are going and who they are going into. Let's simulate the week. We'll cover our week 7 recruiting as Lane Oregon officially commits, the first commitment of this cycle, and this is a big one. Oregon is a 6-foot slot corner from Bixby, Oklahoma. Went to the same high school as former Kansas cornerback Chris Harris Jr., who was a great player for the Jayhawks and a great player in the NFL with, fittingly, the Denver Broncos. Unfortunately, we would lose out on both Page and David Ibarra. The big fella's going to Oklahoma. We come in second. As well as we've done in recruiting since the start of this series, there are still bigger programs who can overpower us. Page, meanwhile, will go to Missouri. Kevin Hodges and Frederick Dembo are down to 3 schools. We're in second for both of them. They're both going to visit this week, but Houston looks like their visit went pretty well with Dembo, which is not good news. Hodges I'm a lot more confident in. And then we have a couple guys down to 5. Certainly sucks losing these battles. Page will join fellow St. Louis native Reed Sharp in the Missouri backfield. David Ibarra is the number 2 player in the country. That really sucks as well because I thought we had a great shot to land him. We have 2 open slots now on the board. I'm going to add 3-star running back Dean Tobias and 3-star linebacker Rico Hazelwood. We only got 1 high-level running back prospect last year with Nicholas Scotland-Williamson. We got a few developmental guys as well, but I want to have a couple running back commitments this year, so Tobias does not look like a bad option. I'm not overly keen on Rico, though. He's undersized, he's raw, he can't cover, and he's not all that athletic. compare him to a guy like Tim Afamasaga, it's not even close. Afamasaga is a 5-star. It's an unfair comparison, but still, I think we're going to take him off and look at Clint French, a junior blocking tight end. He's also a bust, but I don't really care as much. A JUCO junior blocking tight end is not a guy I'm planning on being the long-term starter, but rather a depth piece. So these are the 4 guys visiting this week: Oakham, Denbo, Hodges, and Parrish. It's not looking good for Denbo, but we already gave him the visit, so we might as well keep our points into him. But yeah, it looks like his visit went very well with Houston. Kevin Hodges is super close. I think if the visit goes well, we should be able to get him. And now we can start scheduling visits for week 9 against Kansas State. So who are the 4 guys we're going to want to have go into this game? Unfortunately, Salateki Kalawaye is visiting Texas A&M that week. So I think we're going to do Trey West. Kansas State is in first place for him. So if we beat them, that would be a pretty good look. I'm also going to do Hakeem Ficken. He's visiting UCF next week. Very close race with us and the Knights. I'm going to leave the other 2 slots open. Maybe a guy like Tim Afamasaga gets it, but I want to leave our flexibility available for week 8 if there's a couple other players who might be available in week 9. So this is how we are going to use our points here for week number 7. Got a couple guys down to 3. I think Frederick Denbo is very unlikely, but Kevin Hodges, who I think is one of the best players on the board, is definitely someone I'm still holding out hope for. We're in second, but if the visit goes well, I think we can pass Ole Miss. Let's cover week 6 across the rest of the nation and look at these games. We are going to be in for quite the week, so buckle up. We're going to start with a Big 12 matchup. Utah heads to Cincinnati facing off against the Bearcats, and Cincinnati will continue their impressive season. They would win this game 21-19 and are now 5-1. Obviously, right now, Kansas sits atop the conference, but in terms of teams who could potentially make a run for the conference title behind us, Cincinnati is firmly on that list. Now, to Utah's credit, they did come back in the fourth, scoring all 19 of their points, and I think I know why. So, Isaac Wilson played god-awful. He sucked. 3 interceptions, 41% completion percentage, then he got hurt. Jataris Winfrey, the redshirt senior, comes in, and he plays awesome. Is there a quarterback controversy going on in Utah? As for Isaac Wilson, he tore his labrum, so there's not much of a controversy through the next 4 weeks because he will be out. Number 2, Oklahoma heads to Neyland Stadium, facing up against the Vols, and I think sophomore quarterback Philandros Spiro is certainly a name to watch out for NFL evaluators. He's impressed me this year, and I think he's got all the physical tools to be really good. Not draft eligible this year, but starting next season, I think this is a guy who's going to be pretty high in mock drafts, given that he continues his current pace of play. 28-23, Tennessee upsets Oklahoma. Now, Jake Wakefield did play pretty well. The reason why I've been skeptical about this Sooners team is the quarterback play, but Wakefield had a good performance. He is not the reason why they lost. Spiro did not put up great numbers as a passer, but he ran for 105 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Consistency is kind of the issue with him right now. If he can get over that hurdle, the sky's the limit. Georgia heads to Auburn, facing off against the Tigers. Auburn's having quietly a good season so far, 4-1, and they would keep things rolling here as Perry Thompson, the senior receiver, a projected high draft pick, comes down with the score, and Auburn is now 5-1. I don't want to get ahead of myself with the Tigers. They usually start the first half of seasons off really well. Then they play good teams and start to struggle. But they just played a pretty good team here and won. Hank Brown with a great game, throwing for 3 scores. As for Georgia, the redshirt sophomore quarterback, Yvonne St. Jules, continues to be really impressive. Today he had an 80% completion percentage and 100 yards on the ground. Maryland heads to the Big House, facing off against Michigan. Big test here for the Terps on the road, and they would pass the test with flying colors. Sophomore wide receiver Miles Steele has become one of the most dynamic playmakers in the country, helping lead Maryland to the win 29-22. Michigan at 2-3, still number 14. That feels a little bit rich, I'm not going to lie. Christian Martin, 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, completes only 40% of his passes. I give Maryland credit. This is very much the same playbook they used last year with MJ Morris, where it's very much go out there and be a gunslinger. Martin's not as good as Morris, but he's been able to survive the challenging scheme pretty well. Clemson facing off against Virginia Tech. These two teams feel like they're going in opposite directions, and that would continue today. Virginia Tech with the win. Does it count as an upset? Kind of. Maybe. I don't really know, but the Hokies would win this game by the final score of 36-28. And the thing with Lenore Sellers is that he wasn't bad. He hasn't been bad this year, and he has the very reasonable excuse of his entire receiving corps left for the NFL. But Sellers also has not been able to elevate this team around him. And to be a top quarterback prospect in the NFL, you got to be able to do that. Hence why Sellers is only viewed as a 3rd to 4th rounder right now. Dalvy Belfort of Virginia Tech played very well, over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. Aiden Green and Chance Fitzgerald, one of the best receiving tandems in the nation. Both of those guys are real good. Number 7, Washington. Number 3, USC. This should be a fun one. 2 very high-powered offenses, but the talent of Sam Onatulu was a little bit too much for the Husky defense. In last night's prospect profile with the Broncos series, we talked about how Onatulu projects to the NFL. He's currently the projected number 1 pick in next year's draft as a redshirt sophomore, helping lead USC to the 10-point win. Onatulu still has not thrown an interception through the team's first 5 games this year, and in terms of some of the few weaknesses last year, his accuracy was spotty and inconsistent, had a few too many turnover-worthy plays. He's cleaned those up this year. His accuracy has really taken a step up. Damon Williams played well, but not well enough. Washington loses their first game of the year. And finally, Arizona facing off against Florida State. Speaking of projected first-round quarterbacks, Luke Kromenhoek had nearly 600 yards and 6 touchdowns a week ago against UCF. But he wasn't nearly as successful today. The Wildcats with the upset in double overtime. They beat Florida State by the final score of 41-38. I give Arizona a lot of credit. They have adjusted post Noah Fifita way better than I could have expected. Braden Dorman has done a very solid job at quarterback. As for Kromenhoek, he wasn't bad per se. He threw 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. But for a guy who we're talking about as a first-round pick and a potential Heisman candidate, the standard has become really high for him. So a performance like this, I would view as a disappointment, especially considering the team lost. As we look at some other scores around the nation, SMU, they are bad. They lose to Syracuse only by 3. Syracuse undefeated, for what it's worth. I would have liked to have seen them win that game by more, but a win is a win. NC State manhandles Virginia. Alabama defeats Texas. Arch Manning was good. Eli Holstein was better. Oregon over Rutgers 24-21. Florida now number 4. They beat Kentucky. Colorado is now ranked. Mississippi State gets by Texas A&M. Ohio State with a big win. Notre Dame squeaks by Vanderbilt. Texas Tech is now ranked. They are 5-0. And West Virginia beats Pitt in the backyard brawl. Pitt's quarterback Julian Duggar, who was playing excellent this year, suffered a season-ending injury last week. We talked about that when they lost to UAB, and I think things could continue to get worse for the Panthers. As for the rest of the Big 12, Kansas State has won 3 games in a row. UCF puts up 45. They beat Purdue. We'll obviously get to see them this week. And, of course, Houston beat Arizona State, as I kind of expected, with how well Frederick Dembo's visit went. As for some other scores, Kennesaw State 5-0. They put up 50 on Liberty. Iowa State quietly 5-1. They defeat Wisconsin 38-21. Cal puts up 54 on Kent State. That is a lot. Boise State was ranked earlier in the year, I think. They are now 2-4, losing to Sam Houston. Nebraska gets back on the win column. They defeat Illinois in a pretty good game. UTSA was 0-6 coming into the day. They win their first game of the year. USF, meanwhile, 6-1. They've got a really good quarterback with Israel Carter. Missouri wins again. They beat Texas Tech. The Tigers have won 3 games in a row. Louisville, with quarterback Pierce Clarkson, defeats Boston College. And Northwestern, 4-1. They beat UCLA. So we move up to number 3 in the rankings, only behind Ohio State and USC as we're able to jump Oklahoma, who drops a few spots after losing to Tennessee. I'm not really sure why Tennessee isn't above them, but okay, fair enough. Nonetheless, we are in the top 3. We were ranked very highly at points back in season 1. I would guess we were as high as number 2 or number 3 at one point, and we have not been back there since. So it's pretty cool to be back at the top where we've been climbing slowly but surely over these last few weeks. Only 4 teams unbeaten in conference play. As for the players of the week, E.J. Horton, 2 carries, 131 yards, and 2 touchdowns to go along with over 100 through the air. John Holt wins it defensively. Tedrick Fisher and Lamont Green Jr. win it for the Big 12. As for the Heisman list, Sam Onatulu has passed Miles Steele. He has taken the lead. Eli Holstein cracks the top 5. That is very well deserved. We looked at Holstein's numbers yesterday in the Broncos prospect profile, and he's been having a really, really good season. I know I've been down on Alabama throughout this series, but they've got a really good quarterback, and they've got a real shot in the SEC. I cannot believe I'm believing in them. They're going to make me look stupid, aren't they? So let's take a look at UCF, 2-3. They lost their first game 14-3, but that was not an indicator of what's to come. They can put points on the board. The problem is their defense blows. 32, 31, and 39 points allowed over the last 3 weeks. Now, granted, they are coming off a win against Purdue. And this is still a very talented team. They only lost 1 regular season game last year. They won the conference title. They made it to the playoff. But boy, do they miss their quarterback, Ja'Cory Brown. Dylan Rizk has gotten better as the year's gone along, but he's not Ja'Cory Brown. They do have a loaded receiving core led by Kason Stokes and Jordan Bridgewater. It's an absurdly deep group. If I was Hakeem Ficken, I would not want to play here and be like the wide receiver 9. I would want to go to Kansas and have an opportunity to play as early as next season. So hopefully he comes to his senses and chooses us. He'll be visiting UCF next week, and he will probably be visiting us in 2 weeks. I'm not sure if we officially scheduled the visit yet, but I think week 9 is when he would come. So here we go, the 6-0 Kansas Jayhawks looking to remain undefeated against last year's conference champions, the Central Florida Knights, who have certainly lost a step with their quarterback Ja'Cory Brown, now in the NFL. UCF has one of the worst defenses in the country, just a couple weeks removed from Luke Kromenhoek throwing for 560 yards and 60 touchdowns. If he can do that, I would hope Clyde Poole can do a lot, as he gets a late block from Teamer and gets the first down. 2nd and 3 now, a little bit past the 50. Poole backs up in the pocket under a ton of pressure. On the run, he's got Amani Law. Gets through traffic, jukes away from the safety, and gets around 32 yards. A great play after the catch by Amani Law, who, as we know, is dangerous with the football in his hands. 2nd and 10, Poole under pressure, and he is sacked. Couple of defenders in the backfield. I think they're going to credit Isaiah Dixon, the ultra-talented senior, along with Marcus Downs. 3rd and 12, up the middle, it's caught! Dorian Pepper in the end zone with the touchdown. Great decision there by Clyde Poole. He found the open part of the seam and lets it fly. For the redshirt sophomore, Dorian Pepper, Kansas with a touchdown to start the game. As we take a look at the UCF offense. Inconsistent quarterback play, but 2 great receivers on the perimeter. I don't think that matches up particularly well with us. 3rd and 2 here for the Knights. Play action. Rizk looks to throw it under pressure. He's not going to take the risk. Get it? And he throws it away. Seth Jennings with the pressure. And Kansas will get it back on 3rd and 6. Cornell Teamer gets nothing. What I wanted to do there was run it up the middle, give us a potential 4th and manageable. But Caven Call, the senior, brings him down well shy at the line of scrimmage, and Kansas will punt it. On 3rd down, that one is caught. Big hit by Teron Jean-Pierre, as Devin Murphy appears to be banged up on the play. A nice grab there by Kason Stokes, though, to keep the chains moving. 3rd and 10 now. Rizk under pressure. Wide open man downfield. That's Jordan Bridgewater, one of the team captains, and he gets it past the 35 for a gain of around 29. UCF getting closer and closer to the end zone. On 1st down, Rizk looks to throw it. Looking for the corner. Wide open! Kason Stokes left uncovered. I mean, what was that? There was nobody towards the left corner of the field. Taylor Davis, the safety, Teron Jean-Pierre, the corner, both of those guys got to do a better job there. Davis in particular. That'll wrap up the first, tied at 7. Kind of the opposite of the Oklahoma State game. We started off really well here, and then the last few minutes, not so good. We'll see if the offense can respond here. I have high expectations for our offense today, given how poorly this defense has looked this year. Up the middle, Isaiah Lamore to the 46. His usage has been a little more inconsistent than last season, but we know he is dangerous at the tight end position. Poole under pressure. He is sacked off the blitz. Dallas Odrick brings him down. 2nd and 19 now for Kansas. Poole looks to throw it. Tries to get out of the pocket, but cannot. 3rd sack of the game already for the UCF defense. Couple of guys were there, including Odrick again. On 3rd down, he's hit as he throws, and it's picked off. The pressure too much to handle as Troy Ford Jr. brings it to around the 30-yard line, where he's wrapped up by Rasheem Diggs. Not a great series for the new-look offensive line. It was great last week, but they allow 2 sacks, and they allow a pressure that leads to an interception. With great starting field position, here's Risk. Up the middle, he's got Stokes, breaks a tackle, and he is in for a touchdown. Kason Stokes with the score, and UCF will take the lead, his 2nd receiving touchdown of the first half, and that'll make it 14-7. 3rd down and 5. Poole looks to throw it, scrambles to the left, trying to find space to run, and he's got it. Outruns the defender, gets the first down past the 35. Poole has not had a great game as a runner so far. UCF has held him in check. 3rd down again. Poole looking for the sideline, and it's caught. What a catch by Rajon Jones for a gain of 20. Not an easy play to make, but he high points the football and hangs on despite the hit. 1st and goal. Teamer gets a block, and Cornell Teamer is in for a touchdown. We're tied at 14. Cornell Teamer facing off against a team who he was very interested in as a high school prospect. We've won our fair share of recruiting battles against UCF. Cornell Teamer in Season 2. Nicholas Scotland-Williamson last year. Both of those guys at one point in time I thought were going to UCF. Hopefully this year that'll be Hakeem Ficken. So the Knights get it back. Here's a solid run up the middle for Stacy Gage. Solid running back. He may be no Cornell Teamer, but he's a good player in his own right. Here on the run, Dylan Risk tries to outrun Roddy Orr. He cannot, but he does scramble for the first down. The Knights moving it well down the field. As Risk looks up the middle, what a catch! Roman Farrow, the sophomore, 5'6", 165. He is tiny, but he is a playmaker. Risk up the seam, it's caught for a score. Bradell Richardson, the 3rd wheel of this very talented receiving core. He's in for a score, and UCF regains the lead. Another not-so-great early first-half performance for Kansas. Play action, Poole up the middle, nice throw and catch. Under pressure, threading the needle for Rajon Jones, who continues to really establish himself as the number 2 in the passing game. Poole tries to evade the pressure. He cannot. A 4th sack for the Knights here in the first half. David Ahmed was there. 3rd and 4, short throw for Lamore. He gets around 2. And with us being this close, we're going to go for it. Now we have to be smart. There's only 20 seconds here on the clock, and we don't have any timeouts. We've got to manage this wisely. Poole to the outside, gets the first down, and he is out of bounds past the 25. We would certainly love to center the kick, but our focus is on trying to get it to the end zone. On 2nd down, Poole rolls out. Nobody's open, so he's going to throw it away, and we're just going to take the points. Not an easy one for Escalante. 40-yarder from the right hash, but his kick is a bullet. Never a doubt. Escalante, if you remember against UCF as a freshman, had a really bad miss late in the game. He's getting revenge against teams like UCF and Arizona State, where he blew games as a young guy, and he's now making kicks against them. I really wanted to get points there at the end of the first half, even if it was just a field goal, get ourselves a little momentum going into the second half, because obviously we're not playing great. The offense hasn't been bad, but considering we're playing against one of the worst defenses in the country, I was hoping for a little bit more. Defensively, we have not been good. The pass coverage has been bad. The pass rush has been bad. Dylan Risk has been very impressive. 13 of 16, 3 touchdowns. Clyde Poole, meanwhile, has made some nice throws, but he's been overall fairly inefficient, just 9 of 17 through the air. As UCF has it to start the third with the lead and possession of the ball. Risk on first down, looks to throw it. That pass is caught. Nice maneuver by Stokes, who gets by the defender. And Cason Stokes continuing his strong afternoon. 3 catches, 62 yards, and 2 scores in the first half. The RPO screen does not work at all. Great tackle there by Teron Jean-Pierre. The redshirt freshman who's had an up-and-down day makes a nice play. On third down, it's just a screen, and it does not work at all. Taylor Davis brings down the running back, so a good stop there defensively. Kansas gets it back on offense. 2nd and 1, play action. Poole rolls to the right, under pressure. He's got a wide open man deep down the field. It's caught. Ty Lord at the 25. Nobody covered him whatsoever for God knows what reason. That was just absolutely pitiful defense. And it goes for a gain of 47. Back to Lord to the outside into the red zone. He gets it near the 10 for a gain of 14. Very good drive here for Lord. 2 plays from scrimmage, nearly 60 yards. 3rd and 5. Poole breaks a tackle, and he's in. The QB scramble for Clyde Poole will give Kansas the lead. 24-21. Very good start to the third quarter, given that we were trailing at halftime and did not get the luxury of starting with the ball. That's what we needed to do. Get a stop, get a score. Back with it, a big sack for the defense. Dakaias Brinkley does it again. What a senior season he's having. He's pushing his draft stock up quite a bit. Looked like somebody jumped there, no flag, a delayed handoff, and Marcus Ashe saves the day. The defense did not see the run play coming, and Taj Chestnut almost got the first down, if not for a great tackle by Marcus Ashe. Here on 2nd and 6, play action. It's caught by Lamore with space. Juke move, gets it past the 40. I don't really know how that play was so successful, but hey, I'm not complaining. Following play, RPO, caught by Rasheem Diggs. Gets a nice block from Amani Law. As I say that, Law gave up his block, but still a good play, bringing Kansas into the red zone. This one is caught. It's Law. Breaks a tackle, nearing the end zone, wrapped up at the 1. Another productive game for Law so far, 3 for 54. Is on 1st and goal. Ty Lord finds the seam, untouched, walks the red carpet, and he is in for a score. Kansas now up by 10. For as mediocre as we were in the first half, the team looks great out of halftime into the second half, which again continues to be the case as it's been throughout the year. We are a really good second half team. Gage loses yardage there on 2nd down. Devontae Crispin brings him down, and that'll make it a 3rd down and 11. Here is Risk under pressure up the middle, and it's intercepted. Marcus Ashe with the interception, trying to find space. He gets it to the 20. What a third quarter for Marcus Ashe. He had the big 3rd down tackle on the last drive, preventing a 1st down, and now he comes through with an interception. A phenomenal sequence there for the sophomore safety, and Kansas, who's already up by 10, already has all the momentum, will get the ball in the red zone with a nice return after the fact by Marcus Ashe. So we were down, not even starting with the ball going into halftime. Now we have a chance to make it a 3-score lead into the 4th. Poole rolls out, has space, runs for the 1st down, jukes away from the defender, and is wrapped up at the 1. An impressive run for Clyde Poole. We're going to go no huddle. We want to score before the end of the quarter. Teamer has it, and he's in. The defense kind of read the play right, but they expected Clyde Poole to keep it. They were not prepared for the handoff, and Teamer is in his 2nd touchdown of the afternoon. This was about as perfect as a quarter as we could have asked for. Outscoring UCF 21-0. Their offense had nothing going. They did not get it past the 50. Marcus Ashe with the big turnover. Marcus Ashe with the big tackle prior. And the offense was terrific. We threw the ball well. We ran the ball well. Everything is clicking right now for us. Can the first half just be like the practice portion of the game? and then the second half be the only thing that counts? Because if that was true, we would be the national championship favorites. 10 minutes ago, UCF had the lead. Now they got a lot of work to do, down by 17 points. On first down, Risk looks to throw it. Quick throw, wide open. It's Jordan Bridgewater. Down the field. Landers will not catch him. Well, that's exactly what UCF needed. A 73-yard score for Bridgewater. Strikes the post in the end zone. Still a lot of work to do, but that's about as good as they could have asked for of the possession. They scored, and they did it quick. 3rd and 7 for the offense. Poole under pressure, on the run. Great coverage play. Looks like Teamer had a little bit of space, but the DB was able to get a hand on it. UCF now with good field position. 3rd and 6. Risky throw, and it's caught. High pointing the football. What a catch by Stokes. He boxes out Jean-Pierre like he's going for a rebound. UCF in the red zone. They have a real chance to change their fortunes rather quick. 3rd and 7. Risk goes short. It's caught by Gage, and he gets around 3. Quantavious Landers brings him down, and they're going to go for a field goal with around 4 minutes to go, trying to make it a one-score game. But the kick is no good. Owen Spielman, the sophomore, wide to the right. And if UCF wanted any real chance of winning this game, they had to make that kick. That is a brutally bad miss. They were playing really well in the fourth quarter, but it's still a 10-point game, and now we're looking to chew clock and end it. Teamer to the outside. Big run past the 50 to around the 40. Kenyon Denbo hurt on the play, and our doctors fear it could actually be a pretty serious injury. Terrell Butts tore his pec 2 weeks ago, and they think Denbo might have done the same. Teamer to the outside, gets a nice block, has a first down inside the 20, nearing the century mark in yardage. I was wanting to chew clock, but instead we'll take some big Cornell Teamer plays. On 3rd down, Teamer gets around 7. 16 carries, 103 yards, and 2 touchdowns for the sophomore, and that'll bring out the field goal team. 33-yarder from the left hash for Anthony Escalante. His kick is good. Still perfect. Through nearly 7 games, it is 41-28. UCF hanging on for dear life. Missing the field goal on that last drive really killed them. As this one is caught, big hit near the 50. UCF moving it pretty well, though, but this clock is moving under a minute to go. 3rd and 8, open downfield, it's caught. Jordan Bridgewater burns Landers again. Bridgewater with 2 long touchdowns here in the fourth. Landers is fast. I don't know why he keeps getting burned. This has been a trend for him since we got him. Now time for the onside kick, and it is quickly recovered by Marcus Ashe. He most definitely will be getting a game ball today. What a second half for Ashe, making timely plays when we needed them. And best of all, there was not a heart attack on that onside kick, unlike 2 weeks ago against Arizona State. Not the prettiest win, but we find a way to keep winning. That's been the story in conference play. We have not played as well as I would have hoped, and I feel that we are capable of. We have not been dominating teams that are clearly inferior. Outside of Utah, none of the teams we've played are that good, but we're keeping them in the game. However, we're finding a way to win, which is the number one important thing, so I cannot complain too much. The offense was really good at times in this game, but a little less consistent than I had hoped. Poole only completed 54% of his passes. Granted, the interception wasn't really his fault. We ran the ball very well, though. Teamer, 16 carries, a career high, 103 yards and 2 scores. Ty Lord was very efficient on the ground. Poole was a little quieter, though, as a rusher. Through the air, Isaiah Lamore played well. Law with a good game. Lord and Jones made some big catches, as did Pepper with the early touchdown. Kenyon Denbo, meanwhile, the game told me he tore his pec, but he was not on the injury report after this week, so I assume he's fine. Defensively, not great. Shout out Marcus Ashe. He showed up. Anthony Escalante showed up, but nobody else defensively was very good. Dylan Risk was ridiculous. 85% completion percentage, 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. We could not cover. Now again, they have 2 phenomenal receivers, and boy, it showed. Jordan Bridgewater, stud. Kaysen Stokes, stud. They combined for 9 catches, nearly 250 yards, and 4 touchdowns. But I do want to give the secondary a little bit of grace. The pass rush was really mediocre today, and has been in conference play. Seth Jennings and Dekias Brinkley and Roddy Orr were wrecking havoc early in the year. Brinkley's still playing really well, but the other guys have quieted down a little bit. So we're going to need them to pick it up down the stretch here as we get set for some fun matchups across the nation. We've got some good ones here in Week 7. The rivalry, USC and Notre Dame. Sam Onatulu versus Jade Pitts, the 2 ultra-talented sophomore quarterbacks. I'm intrigued by LSU. They have the huge test against Florida. That'll be a good game. But we'll start in Tallahassee. Florida State coming off a bad loss last week against an undefeated TCU team with a lot to prove, and they showed the world that they are for real. Haas Hedgney, the junior quarterback who won the job for them in the offseason, he is really damn good. TCU 6-0. They win it 30-21. Much like last week, Luke Kromenhoek wasn't bad, but I don't think he was good enough. Back-to-back disappointing performances in losses for Kromenhoek, and the Florida State hype train has slowed down a little bit. As for TCU, these guys are legit. They might be the second, at minimum, best team in the conference. 1-loss Oklahoma against 1-loss Auburn. Both teams very far apart in the rankings, despite the standings being pretty much equal. And, well, I think what we learned here today is that the rankings don't really mean jack diddly squat until the end of the year, as Auburn puts on another strong showing. Rough episode for Oklahoma. They go 0-2. Very good episode for Auburn in 2 games as underdogs. They win them both against Georgia and now the Sooners 27-20. This is revenge for Oklahoma stealing David Ibarra in recruiting. Go Tigers. War Eagle. The sophomore running back Clyde Gray played very well while Perry Thompson scored twice. Jake Wakefield did play again, though. He is not the reason why they were losing. Going into the year, I was worried about the quarterback play for them, but Wakefield's been legit good. Non-defeated number 4 Florida faces off against LSU, a big opportunity for the Tigers to show that they're for real. And much like TCU, they put a lot of people on notice. LSU upsets the Gators by 1, 27-26. I'm not worried about Florida at all. DJ Lagway is still very, very good. He didn't have his best game today, but we know he's fantastic. We know this offense is fantastic. But LSU, who really has not been relevant at all in this series, they're 6-0. They are playing better than anyone in the SEC. Lincoln Wagner, the sophomore quarterback, he's good. Number 1 Ohio State faces off against the Ducks, who have to win this game. If they want to make themselves look like a real threat in the playoff race, they've got to get a statement win. And they sure did that. Austin Mack leads the charge for the Ducks. Number 1 Ohio State knocked off by Oregon. Sco Ducks, baby. 27-21, your final, despite a nice fourth quarter comeback by Ohio State. Julian Sayin was pretty He wasn't horrible, but he certainly wasn't good. Zylan Sidarlin played quite well, possible high draft pick at receiver this year. Austin Mack, meanwhile, was quite good. Damian Lansana, the freshman, with a great game through the air. Tennessee, coming off a big win against Oklahoma last week, facing off against Texas. Right as I'm out on this Longhorns team, they just keep finding ways to pull me back in. Texas basically has to win out if they want to have a real shot at the playoff. And that started here today against the Vols. Texas wins 28-20 off the backs of a really strong showing from quarterback Arch Manning. Philandro Spiro was meh. 58% completion percentage, not as good on the ground as he was last week. As for Texas, Manning was pretty good. Honestly, I kind of gassed him up. His numbers were not that impressive, but he did enough to win against a very, very strong Tennessee team. This is a matchup I'm really excited about. USC, unbeaten. They look like one of the best teams in the country right now against Notre Dame, who started the year off really poorly, but has played a lot better over the last couple of weeks. Jay Pitts and Sam Onatulu, couple of first-round quarterbacks, But look at this play by Jordan Faison. Ridiculous maneuver after the catch. Notre Dame wins the rivalry game. They knock off unbeaten USC by the final score of 49-35. Notre Dame was up 20 going into halftime. Jay Pitts had an interesting game. He only completed 58% of his passes, but he was dynamic in the ones that he did complete. 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. Sam Onotulu, very similar. 57%, 4 touchdowns, 300 yards. Both quarterbacks had a lot of misses, but they both had a lot of very impressive throws. As for the rest of the country, Michigan defeats Iowa. The Hawkeyes were playing well this year, so that's a good win. On the road, no less, for the Wolverines. Pitt now 0-3 since the injury to Duggar. Virginia Tech wins. Alabama wins. Look who's number 1, by the way. With Ohio State and USC both losing, the Kansas Jayhawks, for the first time in this series, ranked number 1. Clemson loses again. They beat West Virginia. Syracuse still undefeated. They put up 52. And then here in the Big 12, Baylor upsets Cincinnati. Kansas State has won 4 in a row. They beat Arkansas. And Utah knocks off Colorado. That was a surprise to me. Colorado's been playing really well. Utah, of course, without Isaac Wilson at quarterback. Nebraska's back in the top 25. They beat Indiana. Wisconsin, under the radar, having a nice season. Oklahoma State beats unbeaten Kennesaw State. Texas A&M over Georgia. The Bulldogs keep losing, but Yvonne St. Jules keeps playing well. Here we are at number 1. Alabama is second. Maryland, who put up 56 on Michigan State, they are number 3. I'll be honest, I did not think Maryland was going to be that good coming into the year with all the losses they had. Those boys are balling, though. Christian Martin with a really good game this week at quarterback. A couple of new teams here, Nebraska, UAB, and Arizona. I'm not sure why Pitt is ranked. They've lost 3 in a row, and their quarterback is out for the year. Only 2 teams unbeaten in the conference, Kansas and TCU. We're building a little bit of a buffer at the top. We still don't want to be losing games, though. As for the players of the week, Caden Call wins it defensively for UCF. Should have been Marcus Ashe, in my opinion. Sam Onotulu still a favorite for the Heisman, despite the loss. And now, halfway through the season, a little bit over for some teams, there's only 4 unbeatens left, and we're one of them, along with TCU, LSU, and Syracuse. So next episode, we head to Arkansas, facing off against the Razorbacks, and then the Sunflower Showdown against Kansas State, the Wildcats, winners of 4 in a row. We're angry after the way we lost to them last year, and we want revenge. Hope everyone enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out. Rock Chalk.